Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Johanna. For those of you who are new here, welcome. For those of you who are returning, welcome back. A great big shout out to my channel members for supporting my channel. Thank you. Alright, so this is the next installment of my coloring book collection and completed pages video. In this video, we're going to be talking about 4 different books. I like to keep these pretty short and sweet because I tend to chat away anyway. But we're going to be talking about the 2 TOMIC books that I have, the 1 Denise Clute book I have, and the 1 Camilla ERRICO book that I have. And really the only similarity between these books is the size. They are 10 by 10. So let me get this organized and we'll get started. All right, so this is the only Denise Clute book that I have. This is Gnomes in the Neighborhood, and I have 2 completed pages out of here. Now, the first one that I did, I was not happy with. Now, I thought I would go out of my comfort zone and color snow in a different way, but then I still colored the tree like a tree. And maybe that's kind of my problem with it, because I wanted to go whimsical, but yet it's still grounded in reality. And so, yeah, I wasn't happy with this. And I don't know if it subconsciously made me just not want to come back in here, but it took for a while for me to color this, and then it took a while for me to come back and color in something. Now this, I believe, was a buddy color, but I don't have it written down. But I want to say it was Deb, Pixie, and Poet and I. Because I wrote down a whole bunch of other things, but not who it was buddied with. But I'm pretty sure this was a buddy. Now this says it's a buddy color with Deb and Poet. Pixie, do you have this book? Did you color this? I mean, I'd like to think I would write it down if you did. I don't know. This one I was much happier with. Now, I don't normally come in here a lot. I like her art style. I like looking at it, but it doesn't necessarily call me into coloring. However, for this month, or no, for this week, Olga's weekly prompt is floral Capulet, something like that. And honestly, when she showed it, I'm like, what does that even mean? And it's like, oh, it's a wreath. All right, Olga, you could have just said that. But there's quite a few pages in here that it would count towards that. And so there's one, this one right here, that I'm leaning towards, because actually it would be a very simple and quick color. It's got the floral Capulet in her hair, and the wood grain I could use my Graphitint on. So yeah, I'm thinking this is the one that I'm going to shoot for and maybe color later on today. But yeah, it's a really cute coloring book. It's not something I gravitate towards. Her bird one is also quite cute, but again, I've only got 2 pictures in this one done. So even though I like the bird one, I'm just gonna stick with this one. That's fine for me for now. But that's Denise Clute's Gnomes in the Neighborhood. Next one I have is Pop Manga by Camilla ERRICO. Now, I do like her cute and creepy one, but I don't come to this one as well. And I think it's because the faces are so big, and because it's a double-sided book, it either means sacrificing another side, which I would do in a heartbeat, or using paints or pencils. For this one, I didn't write it down, but I'm pretty sure, oh no, I finished this in April 2021. This is done with Brook Funners, and at the time, I don't even know that I had any alcohol markers. I don't know that I knew they existed as a medium until a few months later. And so I like the look of it. So I like the color palette, but it's a lot of big spaces, and I generally lean towards something more detailed, because even with all of, you know, it's detailed sort of, because there's a lot on the page, but I'm not into pattern detail. I want variety. But overall, I like the color palette on this. This was a quick color. I know I colored this for Olga because the prompt was raven or crow, and I used watercolor on here. So this is Inktense paint pans. That is one of my favorite mediums. And then some glitter gel pen on top of it. And it does wrinkle, as you can see, but I do like the look of it. This one was a buddy color with my friend Poet, and her rendition is absolutely spectacular. I enjoyed coloring her, but once I got down here and with the alligator, I kind of just got bored with it. And it's mostly a pencil page with just a little bit of glitter gel pen on it. So yeah, it's an interesting composition, and I loved what Poet did on her rendition, but eventually I just got bored with it, especially with pencil pages because they start to hurt. It's easy for me to get bored because of the pain. However, this I did with Deb, Pixie, and Poet. We did this back in March 2022, and I have to say I loved their renditions of it. But this is the very first time that I discovered I enjoy coloring cats in a calico way, because then I can be messy with it, but also I don't have to worry about fur. I mean, let's be honest, I was never really worried up until that point. But I really love the colors on this. I love her eyes. I love her hair. I love that she's feeding herself ice cream. I think that's a genius product, although it's going to drip in her hair and that will get sticky, and that's a whole nother problem, but whatever. But this is done in Neocolor 2s, Inktense, Monolama, some pencil. There's definitely glossy accents here. On this little thing here, I think I don't know if I had it, but I want to say it was this iridescent medium that Pixie had sent to me, because it's not raised. Like her eyes, you can feel the bump on that. This, it's just, there's a little bit of a shimmer, but it's more of the effect. It's not necessarily, it looks frosted. Yeah, that's the word I'm struggling to get out. But this is actually my favorite page of the ones that I have completed. Now, there's only 4, but still, favorite page out of this book. And this is Pop Manga Coloring Book by Camilla d'ERRICO. Now, of the 2, I think I like the artwork in here more, just because it's detailed and it's beautiful. It makes me think of like old Bible manuscripts with the level of detail and kind of the edging and whatnot. And whenever I see one of these pages, I'm assuming it's just going to be bold and vibrant. But the problem with this book is it is effectively double-sided. And you guys know, if I want to, I'll go ahead and sacrifice the opposite page. But the problem with this book is, 1, I think it's getting harder and harder to find. And 2, I don't know that I necessarily would sacrifice another side. Like, I'm not huge on this, so I could certainly do this in alcohol markers, at least to base, and then do some colors on top of it. But yeah, it's one of those books where I look at this and I don't get intimidated by my stuff, because I'm not going to pay money to get scared of it. I'd rather just keep my money. But I do know that this would be a time commitment. So it's one of the few books that if I'm going to choose a page or a double page spread, then I go into it knowing, okay, Johanna, just pace yourself. It will take some time, but you're okay with that. I don't necessarily do that with any other book. Maybe Joanna Basford, some of the detailed ones, but for this one and the one I'll be showing you next, yeah, it's definitely one of those, it's going to take a minute and just kind of lean into that aspect of it. But the pictures that I've completed out of this one, this first one is this one right here. And this one I did to test some pencils that I had in my collection. So this was in August 2021. And this I just want to see what pencils that I had felt good on the paper. For me, it's less of a pigment. I don't care about light fast, but I want to know how they feel so that I'm not struggling to get color on a page. And based on my key here, my Inktense pencils worked really well. my luminance pencils, and my Prisma pencils. Now again, for me, working really well isn't necessarily because it blends well or because it layers well, but because I didn't have to put a lot of effort by way of hand strength or dexterity into it. Because again, I have arthritis in my hands, and the longer I work with pencils, the worse it hurts. Now, some of the worst ones were Crayola. That's not a surprise to me. Although Crayola was this right here. So it's not like you can't get a good effect, but I felt I had to really struggle and push and put a lot of pressure to get that effect, right? You can use cheap products and you can get some really stunning results. But if at the end of that, my hand hurts too much for me to continue to color, then it's not worthwhile for me to use the product. So my scale of what I use the mediums for isn't what you necessarily hear people using mediums, because they want to know how things layer and how they blend and all that. Yeah, I don't care. Does it hurt me? And will it prevent me from wanting to color more? That's really where I put my judgment and my key into. And then the other page I completed, this one was done this year, and this was for Olga Rani's Finding Color of Dark Horse, and I really enjoyed this. This is probably an outlier just because, like I said, this to me should be a very vibrant, at least for my purposes, a very vibrant coloring book. That I'm doing it in somber tones, it was really because of the theme of the prompt, not that I think this page spoke to me in that way, right? So if I weren't doing this page for that particular prompt, this probably would be as pastel-y as I can go, because I don't actually do pastels well either, because I either gravitate towards neutral or really vibrant. I don't seem to have anything in between that. But I love the overall look of that, and I love how I was able to achieve the effect that there is some translucency to the wings because of how I colored this. This is acrylic marker, but this was using some distress ink to kind of soften the edges so I could still get the black inkiness, but then because it looks kind of faint and I don't want to say wispy, it does look like you're seeing the shadow of the back of the horse through the wings. I love the overall effect of it, and I love the colors on here. But those are the only two pictures I have out of this book here. Oh, and this is Drum and Vanger by Thomas Liv TOMIC. So love the book, but it's definitely a time commitment for me. And the other one that I have is Spooktivus, also by Thomas Liv TOMIC. Now, I didn't know this, and I believe it was a video that I had watched from Emma like a year or two ago. There's a book called Villain Son. It's the same. It's either the same as this one or the same as that one. It's just in a different language. But Thomas Liv TOMIC only has these two books out, because if not, I'd have looked for the other ones. But it's the same artwork, so I'm not going to buy it again. And unlike that one, a lot of these images are single-sided. Not all of them, but a lot of them are. So I think that's why I have more pages in this completed because of that. But let's go to this one. Now, this is the very first page I completed out of this, and I do not like the results. I use Inktense, and I think with my Inktense pencils, because that's what this was, I needed to come in and do some additional layering. They work well on the paper. I just don't like the effect on it. And once I get discouraged, then it was just finished to be finished, but not necessarily something I enjoyed. This one is more along the lines of what I was talking about, where it was going to be super vibrant. Now, I also colored this for one of Olga Rani's prompts. It was, I think, a summer prompt of wedding. And the way that I saw this was she was a wedding planner, and these were her helpers, and this was the wedding list, and she was working towards this. Now, originally, my color palette was going to be more pastel-y because I wanted it to be a very soft wedding color palette. But I used my Inktense paint, or my Inktense pencils, and I mean, it's the clues there. It's Inktense, so it's intense colors. And then when I activate it with probably like a Tombow or whatever, then I realized, oh yeah, that's way more vibrant than I thought. And that's kind of how pictures work for me, that may not necessarily have been the direction I was going to go, but that's happening now. So let's just kind of lean into it. And I really enjoy how this looks. And adding the text there just kind of adds to the story of what this meant to me and for it to mean towards because of a prompt in the community. So really happy with that one. I'll show you this picture in just a minute, but this is another one. Again, very vibrant, very bright. This was a buddy color with my friend Poet. We actually have another one, and I'll show you that because the picture I want to end with, I really am happy with. Again, really vibrant, really bright, Inktense pencils. There is some alcohol marker on here. The bug actually stands out because of the color of this. And then the fairies, to get that kind of effect where you can kind of see that their dresses are kind of translucent, then I just use a little less in pigment there so that you kind of see their skin tone. Really happy with the look of this. Now it's funny because this is also another buddy with Poet. She finished this and we decided to do this page because last year I had a coloring the year of the tiger hashtag and I never actually got to it. So it's still marked. I won't take this away, but I think it's just funny that we set up a buddy color and I'm like, yeah, I know I said yes to this page because it counts to the hashtag, but I never actually got to it. But the last page that I did is actually a double page spread. And that was a buddy color with my friend Deb. Now, I don't know if this was our very first buddy color, but I certainly enjoyed this eventually. So we had set this up probably late May of 2022 or early June. Definitely just to give ourselves some time just to get into the mindset to do this. And so I knew, okay, this is going to take a long time. As I do with many of my pictures, I did not go into this with any kind of color palette. Things just kind of happened. and it kind of shows that. Now, down here in the tile work, it actually had looked slightly different, but I had put some glaze pen on one of these here. And instead of doing it in a small section, I did it right smack in the middle, probably this one right here. And that wasn't necessarily the effect I was going to, but I felt, okay, well, this is what we're doing now because it's too obvious for me to kind of change it anywhere else. And then I put a glaze pen here. I'm like, okay, that's not exactly what I was going for. And then I kind of just built the color palette. So you've got some blues going on here with some blues up here. And this section here kind of ties into the birds because I already done the flowers in red. I'm like, okay, well, birds are either red, black, or blue generally for me, but I don't want them to be black. So, okay, well, let's do them yellow because I've done this. I'm not sure I like this at all, but it kind of triangulates the page. And then these fairies, I didn't want to do them in different colors, mostly because I was kind of over it. They, I think, were one of the last things I did. I'm like, they're just all going to be sisters, and this is their uniform. So, yeah. And then the last thing I actually did on the page was this distress ink background with a cloud stencil. And you can see where I kind of smudged there, but you know what? That's just that part of the sky. Who even cares? And I really like that this was a buddy color with my friend Doodle. We've done a few since. We've got another one set up for our birthday month in a different coloring book. It just makes me happy, but also it always tickles me when I see a page or pages and I can feel the stress or the anxiety or just the frustration with myself because I just kind of do things and things just kind of happen. And it's weird because I always ask myself, how did this happen? But it always happens because I don't have a plan. Sometimes it feels like I don't have a clue, and it shows. Now, do I think this is a really pretty page? You know what, guys? I do. It's vibrant and it's fun and it makes me smile. But it also, I can feel the angst. This is kind of an angsty page. But that is my final completed page out of this one. Clearly, it's not books, any of the ones that I've showed you today that I get to often, but for the most part, especially in the Thomas Love Tomic books, it's pages that I enjoy. If you're interested, stay tuned and I'll go ahead and show you my coloring book journal where I've written down some numbers. So this is my A5 Maisie Lane dot grid journal. Maisie Lane Co. no longer does dot grid journals, but really it's just any dot grid journal. This is just the preferred style that I have. I'm not gonna lie, this is a little hidden paper clip that I had made for Poet Spice's Crack the Vault video for June, and I think that is so adorable. Tell me that's not cute. Anyway, we are on to the second set of inventory for me for my coloring book collection. And so this is books 71 through 74. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get to this page. I'm not exactly sure how many books I have in my collection, but I'm pretty sure I have more than 140 because we are actually still on bookshelf number 3. So for Gnomes in the Neighborhood, I completed 2 pages out of that one. And if you guys are new, the way that I'm tracking this is I'm counting any pages up and through the end of 2022 in this column here. And I'll tell you why I want you guys to make that distinction. For Pop Manga, I completed 4. For Jommenbunger, I actually have those 2 pages to include the Dark Horse one, but because I did that this year, I won't include that until I do a count for next year. And then for Spooktivus, I did include that last 2-page spread as 2 pages. So I actually have 5 completed pages, although there's only 4 pictures if you include that double page spread. And I actually managed to write this down. This is going to be my Saturday video for July the 1st. And the next section of books, I think, is the last of it to finish out bookshelf number 3. And that one, there's not very many pages in each of the different books that I have, but there's just a few more books than there was in this video. Yeah, at least of what I can tell. And that really is just to complete bookshelf 3. There's really no rhyme or reason of why those books are on the shelf. When I'm organizing my books, I like to keep artists together, but not necessarily in alpha order. And then if I've got a lot of books that are the same size, I like to keep those together. But it's not like, oh, I've got one shelf for my Japanese, because they're actually in 3 different places. I don't have one shelf just with my Amazon books. It's just, in my mind, it kind of makes sense. So if I'm looking for a particular book, more often than not, I can zero into the bookshelf that it's at. And then sometimes, because a lot of the books don't have names on the spines, I can kind of tell by the color of the spine. All of the books that are published outside of Amazon generally have a name on the spine. It's just the Amazon printed ones, unless the artist has made that part of their book dust jacket, then it won't. Yeah, it's more information than you probably ever needed. Anyway, that's my completed pages out of that part of my collection. I'd love to know what you guys think and if you had a favorite one. Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, well, that's it for me for now. And as always, aloha.